Hey, everybody. After a couple of weeks of, family events, holiday travel, business activities, budgeting next year, a lot going on at this, and we're back at it here on Saturday, December 8th, 2024. And I finally found a few hours to carve out and do one of the things that I said I would do on this site, which is to get all of the Trading After Dark videos up and accessible. So they are up and accessible. And for now, they appear in the blog index page or on that page. So underneath the blog index of all the recent ones we've been doing, and then the classic reposts, at the bottom you'll see Trading After Dark videos. There are 11 videos. They span 2011 through 2019. We did 5 fairly recent ones, so 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 start in 2018. We did away with some of the fancy introductory graphics when we brought it back. That was kind of a lot of work, and I don't think I could find the file when we resurrected that. But they're all essentially on YouTube, right, on this YouTube channel. So they are all there. And God willing, all the links are correct. I did my best, so I think they're all there. And, we had a lot of fun doing this. I had a lot of fun putting it together. The feedback was incredible. This was back in the day when Poker After Dark was real big on TV, and it's certainly a poor man's attempt at replicating what they did in a recording fashion. But the intent was always to, again, continue to bring transparency and realism to trading, the good, the bad, the ugly. A mix of topics that we covered. If you look at some of the titles, which you'll see in the index, we've got the lemonade stand that really is geared toward, a small business approach to trading. Fishing for bargains, Jack Be Nimble, chasing the tail, managing the day, making the market, trading the NKD, shall we play a game? Catcher's Mitt edition, one of my favorites. Eliminating the noise in the value area high break trade for those of you who reference volume profile. So that was episode 11. But we had a lot of fun with that. I hope you find it as fun and as I did in doing it, and even looking back now. And so there's quite a bit of material there if you're not doing anything someday. I think some of the videos have a video insert of me in the corner, and again, a little bit younger than. So that's up. I've also, in the tools section on that page, I've now got access to the Jelly scorecard. Now that is an Excel file. It's referenced in the book. I don't have the book with me, but it's one of the later chapters, and it talks about one of my strongest quarters of being an active trader during my career, where I think I was like 52-3 in terms of win-loss by day. And that reflected, at least at my end, the introduction and the diligent use of a scorecard. And so that's available. You've got to either hold click or right click on the button. I've got a note there, and that should download that Excel file. If you have any issues, just let me know. And what's interesting in terms of that type of scorecard, you'll see there's only one reference to any monetary result, and that's at the end of the week. It's a weekly scorecard. There's actually another tab that has hourly information in terms of a roadmap that the Jelly teams followed. But the first page is an Excel file that has a color-coded grading of various attributes of your ability to monitor and trade the market, what you were looking for, how you managed it. No reference at all to numbers until at the very end. There's a line at the bottom that's blacked out for every day except for Friday, where you plug the weekly amount in. So, just a reminder that when you're focused really on any task, any skill, the financial result should be a byproduct of how well you planned and executed. And so by doing away with any monetary data, goals, objectives, results for the majority of the week, then hopefully you're able to focus more on what you should be focusing on. So we've talked about this before. Batter in the batter's box is not focusing on his batting average. The batting average is a result of the application of skill over time. So Same thing for this trading, skill-based endeavor. So that's up as well. The classic repost was one from September of '08, one of my favorite movies, City Slickers. I know I'm dating myself now. But this was, if you recall the movie, and there's a link to a YouTube clip from, from that movie that talks about your one thing, right? Curly, the character Curly is there talking to the guy that Billy Crystal plays, and yeah, again, this is interesting looking back at it from my perspective now, because I'm a little older. I don't think I'm as old as Curly was in the movie yet. At least I hope I don't look it. Maybe I do. But it's now interesting where he's telling Billy, or Billy's character, what's most important, and if Billy can figure that out, then he'll have solved some major life issues. So, there's reference to that one thing, and it's done in a funny way, and it's, again, as I've looked back at trading, developing of the skill, and managing it, and growing with it. Again, the ability to find parables, analogies to movies, to sports, it's just so applicable. So again, hopefully we had some fun with it then. And in my case, that one thing is, you'll see in the post references the fictional drawdown. That really is an attitude that I've tried to go in to every day, week, month, year with, really no matter what the endeavor is. From a trading perspective, obviously I've focused a lot on, starting every sequence. Again, it doesn't matter what time frame, but just starting every sequence with, okay, man, I got to come back. I got to come back. I got to come back from this disastrous loss or draw, whatever. And it's a characteristic that a lot of relief pitchers, in baseball use, and I'm sure many other athletes, in terms of, again, what drives you, and what drives me isn't going to necessarily be the thing that drives you. All I can do, and all I've tried to do over the course of the years, is to share what works with me, and if it helps you, think about something, whether it's duplicating it or maybe just getting close to it and finding that one area that works for you. Great. In my case, it's coming back. I learned pretty quickly in my life that I was most focused, most productive when I was coming back from actual hard hits, whether that was in life as a kid, whether it was in sports as a young adult, or whether it was in trading. And that's when I excelled. So this was all about getting myself in that mindset of always feeling that, oh, man, I'm there. And the trick is, for me, it's to disregard all past performance, right? Especially the successes. And it gets a little tough in my world at times because of the public profile I've had. But, I try to get there. And I know when I don't get there, we've talked a lot over the years about complacency. Complacency, is the first step to failure. And or relying on your record, or resting on your laurels, however you want to say it. And so I can point back to several times in my life, in my career, my trading career, where the minute I lose that focus, it's like I might not. It's not that I shouldn't even show up. It's like I should just write a check to the market. Seriously, it's that bad. So I'm going to pause just for a second. I'll tell you what this is. It is a chilly, snowy day here in New England. This is a product that I found, not ours, but it's for those that love hot chocolate, that can't drink milk, and I've got a little bit of intolerance to milk. Castle Kitchen has put out this double Dutch dark chocolate. I get nothing from this. I'm just drinking it. That really tastes rich and creamy. So anyway. So I'm gonna drink from that every now and then here. So what else we want to talk about here? About this time during a couple of the years when I was doing active diary, it was, looking back at the year, thinking about the year to come, using the artificial cutoff that we have in our calendars, whether it's month end or in this case year end, and trying to figure out what this last year has meant, and what is to come. And, I mentioned at some of the year-end milestones back in the day when we were doing this, that, it is a time for celebrating. And if you go back to some of those specific entries, there's one that's entitled "A Night to Dance," and my point that I tried to make was that it's not just for the people that had successes over the course of the year, but it's for people that were still standing at the end of the year. And a couple of videos ago, I even talked about this in terms of hey, if you're living and breathing and listening to this, you have to be right. Then congrats. This is life. Life is tough. Life is a lot of fun, but it has its challenges. And again, when we look at the financial aspect of this world, of our lives, I talked last time about trying to ask the question for everybody: how does trading fit into your life? And I guess a few weeks removed from that, now maybe the question is, what have you learned that you can take forward, right? We all start tomorrow. We all start Jan 1 with, the same starting point. The season starts anew, and we are all smarter. I hope sharper, although, again, as we've talked about recently, age will eventually catch up to some point. Maintaining the pace, even if it's not an age attribute, maintaining the pace with the computer algorithms, staying out of the noise, you've got to be more diligent. So, not saying we're always going to be sharper day by day, but in the big scheme of things, we really should be. And so here we are at year end. And whether you had a great year, whether you had a struggling year, it doesn't matter. You now have more data. I have more data. We have more data in our lives. Another year of freaking experience in whatever we were doing. And what do we do with that? We should be, as I said last time, we should be better today than we were yesterday. And we should be, hopefully not going down the road of the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Because if you're caught in that loop, we had a reference here a few weeks ago to the Bob Newhart, just stop, which I get is easier said than done. But, the ability to self-check, the primary reason that I went public with a lot of what I've done over the years was for self-checking, which it was for accountability. I felt that I couldn't even hold myself accountable if I was doing it within a vacuum. And again, that goes back to discussions with Dr. Brent Steenbarger. And so I did it publicly, and I held myself to it. Took some grief at times. That's fine, big boy. And so the self-checking is important. So I guess as we close this year and we look at next year, what's the self-check? When I look at the trading part of my life, I've said this before, I still trade. It's mostly after hours because, again, the day I have many obligations, and I have a stewardship of two major companies that I'm responsible for. That comes first. This is a window, which is a very important window. There will be another window down the road, again, in terms of trading, and leading efforts, leading, funds on a full-time basis. Can't do that right now. But what can I do? Look for opportunities at night as time permits. And so, what's one of my goals? So let's talk about that. One of my goals for next year in terms of that part, that small window that's open in my life. It's, certainly the number one goal is not to ever have a losing week. And I've given some thought to this, again, to keep my head in the game. And I'm not going to say I'm going to trade every extended trading hour session, because that's not fair. That puts undue pressure on oneself. You can be chasing stuff that's not there. You do need to live a life, et cetera, et cetera. However, there will not be 1 week over the course of the year where I will not be placing trades. So there'll be sufficient sample size for me to look back at the end of the year and say, okay, did I meet that? So on the scorecard, right, toward the bottom, right, at the end of the week, I make sure that that cell is color green. I don't care if it's a penny, right? We could spend a whole hour or two on that concept from a momentum perspective, from a confidence momentum perspective. Now, again, you cannot, what was it Dave Landry once said, you can't, you know, eat like a bird and poop like an elephant. We'll just leave it at that. But so you can't have penny, you know, profit and then you know, you lose a buck. So so there's that. So that's one of my goals. And you know, again, the ability to be a good steward of, you know, whatever I have today, you know, and I'm very fortunate. I'm very blessed. We've talked about where I'm at now, business-wise, headspace. And now granddad. Now we have two, and we've got another one on the way. So and all boys. I don't know if I said this last time. I apologize. You know, I had one sibling, a sister. I had 5 cousins, all girls, 2 offspring, both daughters, and now grandbabies, boy. So I don't know what that means. But now when people look at me and the unusual attributes of male, it's I don't look that odd now. Along with my sons-in-law. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, I'm at this point in my life where I'm honored, I'm blessed, I'm fortunate, and I need to be a good steward, including this little effort we're doing here. Right? This is not going to do anybody any good. It's not going to do me any good, anybody any good if I'm just, you know, babbling here for self-satisfaction. Do I enjoy it? Absolutely. Is it an outlet? Of course. Do I have fun with it? Of course I do. But, you know, I want to, however this evolves over time, and maybe it doesn't go any farther than this, however this evolves over time, I want it to be accretive to the lives and the careers of people that are doing this thing. So anyway, a little bit of a soapbox there. I apologize. Last thing I wanted to talk about, and you know, we had a great debate here years ago, some offline conversations of, you know, self-sufficiency, and you know, you can go down some faith rabbit holes here too, which I'm going to try to avoid. But self-sufficiency versus, you know, the needing to rely on others, networks, if you believe in higher power, and how that works. And you know, especially for those of us that are type A, those of us that have been given drives to just, you know, assertively, aggressively lead and do things, and you know, maybe make mistakes, you know, more than we should, but that's our personality, and we've got to course correct, like we talked about a few minutes ago, and so, you know, we all have different personalities, but I mean, that's the personality I have. You know, I'm going to go out kicking and screaming. You know, I'm going to go out being assertive. I had a great friend of mine a couple of years ago, basically, when I was questioning, you know, some of the things that I was doing in terms of trading and you know, the investment community. He's like, Don, you'd go crazy if you weren't running like your hair was on fire, because that's who you are. And don't deny that. And that's the point I'm going to try to make. Don't deny who you are. The wonderful thing about this business is, you know, it really is dealing with a blank canvas. And we all have different desires. We all have different interpretations of what needs to be drawn on that canvas. And that may be based on where we are in our life and what we need to draw. That might be based just on our personality, and we need to express ourselves a certain way. And so every one of our trading businesses, you know, back to trading, is going to be reflective of a combination of those things and reflect our personalities. Now, the one given, if we're pursuing this as a business, serious part-time, I don't care. It's got to be profitable. So have safeguards in place that will ensure profitability or stop the pursuit, right? You have to have those safety blocks in place. And so for me, for one, is okay, weekly, no weekly losses, none, zero, no exception, no excuses, right? 0 losses, 0. Now, some people may no, that's, you know, look, you got to sample sizes, you know, this and that's going to happen. No, it's not going to happen. It will not happen next year. Okay. And my point is, that's my canvas. And all of our canvases are going to be different. So, you know, take who you are, remind yourself who you are, The older you are, the more you should have a grasp of that. Some of you folks who are listening, probably, might still be trying to figure that out. But if you've got some years behind you, you kind of ought to know. You ought to know where this fits in your life, like we talked about last week. You ought to know, what those goals should be. You ought to know if you're in a place to push, right? Outliers, create outliers, right? Every trade that goes in your favor, every window where you are more focused, more successful, every time you're on a roll, right? You push it. You have to push it. I don't care what your personality is. You have to push it. You have to maximize the window, the opportunity during those times, because that's the only way this works. It's the only way that you account for all the slippage and the losses. And I mean, we could run the math on all this. And there's a number of posts, the guest jelly posts, talk about the need for outliers. We preached that throughout all the jelly programs. And that was the largest takeaway when they all had to present back to me, that first group, of what did they take away from the effort? Outliers. They need every single trade turn into an outlier, right? Every single window in your life, take advantage of it. Jump through. Don't be a wuss, right? Jump through it. And again, we're all at different points in our life, okay? I had to jump through this window, right? And I am all in. I'm, 7 days a week, always on, because we're doing some really great, incredible things that are having a direct result on people's lives. And that's fun. And it was taking a lot of what we did in the trading community and the jelly community and putting that on steroids in a different venue, while still, not losing sight of this and having some fun with it. So again, there will be time for this on steroids again, trading. But, think about what you want to do next year. Who are you? Set some goals. Set some stretch goals, right? No daily losses. I mean, that one's a little tough. You're going to have days. You're going to have days when you're just off your game, right? But the longer you stretch that time frame out, week and certainly month, no, never have a loss. So have that as a safety net. Okay. That's what I got today. So again, I hope that you find the videos fun. If you've seen them before, go through them again. I was doing it again, having a ball, different topics. Have at it. I love you all. Have a great week, and we'll try to do this more frequently going forward. So take care.